Welcome to World Numismatic Finds, where today we dive straight into the top 5 UK 50 pence pieces that might look worn, dirty, scratched or even downright dilapidated, but could still hold surprising value. From the tired 1979 50 pence that survived decades of pockets and purses, to the grimy 1983 piece hiding its shine, the battered 1969 classic with real age appeal, the 1982 coin marked by honest scratches, and the well-travelled 1980 circulating issue, each of these coins carries a story and potentially a payout. Collectors across the UK are hunting these overlooked treasures, and you might be sitting on one without even knowing it. Let's uncover what makes these humble scraps of change far more exciting and far more valuable than they appear. Let's get started up with the 1979 50 pence coin is one of those coins. It was part of the series introduced when Britain's coinage was decimalised and stands out not only for its design but for its place in numismatic history. For anyone interested in British coins, or with a soft spot for coins with stories, this 1979 50p is a fascinating find, even in worn condition. Back when this coin was minted, in 1979, it still bore the older, larger format of the 50p piece, with a shape that was deliberately unusual, a seven-sided equilateral curve heptagon. That odd yet clever geometry allowed the coin to retain a constant width so that vending machines and coin slots could still accept it even though it wasn't round. At the time, this design was seen as an innovation in British coinage and helped distinguish the 50p from other coins by touch or sight, something quite modern for the era. Over time, many of these larger coins circulated widely, and by 1997 the authorities opted to reduce the size of the 50p, replacing the large design with a smaller, more convenient piece. The older coins, like our 1979 example, were demonetized in 1998, but for collectors, that makes them all the more evocative of a bygone era. The imagery on the coin is a classic slice of British symbolism. On the head side is the bust of the monarch reigning at the time, rendered with the dignity expected on national coinage. On the tail side is the figure of Britannia, seated beside a lion, holding a trident in one hand and an olive branch in the other, with a shield embossed with crosses resting by her. The shield evokes the national identity, the lion speaks to courage and might, the trident hints at Britain's maritime heritage, and the olive branch alludes to peace. Together these evoke a sense of tradition, pride, and stability. On the coin minted in 1979, the inscription around the reverse reads New Pence, marking the relatively recent decimalisation, even as Britannia draws on far older iconography. For many, that mix of old and new, a modern coin with classical symbolism, gives the 1979 50p a charm that endures even when the coin shows signs of wear. Beyond aesthetics and symbolism, the 1979 50p carries cultural and historical value. It represents a period of transition in British currency, the shift from pre-decimal to decimal system still fresh in public memory, the 50p itself a replacement for the old 10-shilling note. At the same time, it captures the spirit of Britain then, proud of tradition, aware of modernity, embracing change but with respect for history. For someone holding a worn 1979 50p today, it may feel like holding a small artifact from the late 20th century, a tangible link to everyday life of decades ago. For nostalgia-driven collectors or history buffs, that intangible heritage can matter as much as metal content. Speaking of metal content and physical specifications, this coin was struck in cupronickel, a durable alloy typical for coins of its era. It weighs approximately 13.50 grams and measures around 30 millimeters in diameter. Its shape, that distinctive heptagon, makes it unmistakable even among more modern coins. These specifications, weight, size, shape, composition, are part of what define the authenticity and charm of this coin. Even if the coin is worn, those physical traits remain a key to recognizing it as a genuine 1979 50p. Now, when it comes to key facts for someone assessing or considering collecting such a coin, the mintage for 1979's 50p was about 58.68 million pieces, a substantial number, which means it wasn't especially scarce at the time. It was part of regular circulation rather than a special commemorative issue. The coin remained legal tender for many years until the large format was withdrawn, giving it roughly 2 decades in regular use. It was minted at the standard national mint, without any special mint mark or limited edition designation. In short, for everyday Britons in 1979 and the early 1980s, many such coins would have passed through their hands, which means there were, and remain, a fair number out there. Because the 1979 50p had a fairly high mintage and was issued for general circulation rather than as a limited edition piece, it is classified among the more common 50p coins from its era. For collectors, that means the coin is not rare in the sense of scarcity, especially compared with limited run or commemorative 50p coins issued later. Nevertheless, demand can remain surprisingly steady. Even a worn 1979 50p appeals to those who appreciate having a complete set of older British coinage, or who value the historical link to early decimal Britain. For a collector building a comprehensive collection of 50p coins, a 1979 example is a must-have simply by virtue of its place in the timeline. Turning to the question of current market value, in dollars, for a worn 1979 50p, according to online numismatic guides, circulated examples of the 1979 coin trade in a modest range. Most worn or circulated 1979 50 pence coins tend to sell for roughly between $5,000 to $7,000, depending on condition and the buyer's interest. Some slightly better preserved circulated examples may fetch a bit more, but generally speaking, worn 1979 50p coins are not commanding large premiums. For coins in uncirculated or brilliant uncirculated condition, the value climbs, but in a worn condition, one should temper expectations. That said, for many collectors the value is not only about money, the charm, history, and completeness contribute significantly to perceived worth. If you're a collector or thinking of collecting old UK coins, there are some tips to keep in mind. First, always examine physical features carefully: the shape, size, weight, inscriptions, and general wear. The original heptagon shape and 13.50 g weight are reliable indicators of authenticity. Avoid cleaning worn old coins aggressively. Cleaning may damage patina, reduce collector value, or even raise suspicion of tampering. Store any coins carefully, ideally in individual sleeves or coin holders to prevent further wear or scratching. If possible, compare with reference images or a coin catalogue to confirm details. Finally, understand that market interest fluctuates. A coin considered common today may become more sought after if interest in vintage sets grows. In conclusion, the 1979 UK 50 pence coin, even in worn condition, is far more than just a scrap of old currency. It is a small, tangible link to Britain's shift into decimal monetary history, a piece of design heritage with the classic Britannia, and a quiet reminder of everyday life decades ago. For collectors, it offers a sense of connection to a transitional time. For history lovers, it's a small artifact of cultural significance. At number 2, the 50 pence coin from the year 1983. While it may appear humble at first glance, especially in its current dirty condition, this coin carries a unique charm that attracts collectors around the world. Despite the surface wear and accumulated grime, coins like this one often tell a story of decades in circulation, and it is precisely these stories that make them so desirable among enthusiasts who appreciate the character and authenticity of a coin with a lived-in past. The 1983 50p is a remarkable example of the design and craftsmanship that defines British coinage from the late 20th century. At the time, this coin represented a continuation of the decimalisation era, a period of significant change in the UK's monetary system. Its distinctive heptagonal shape set it apart from the standard circular coins, instantly catching the eye of collectors and the general public alike. On one side, we find the classic portrait of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, carefully engraved and iconic, a testament to the continuity and tradition of the monarchy. The reverse side features the intricate design of Britannia, symbolising strength, unity, and the rich maritime heritage of Britain. Even in a dirty condition, the details of this design remain partially visible, offering a glimpse into the artistry that goes into each coin. Beyond its design, the 1983 50p coin holds considerable cultural and historical value. Issued during a period of economic and social evolution in the UK, it serves as a small but potent reminder of the country's transition in the early 1980s. Coins like this are not just currency, they are pieces of history that allow collectors to hold a tangible connection to the past. The weight of the coin, precisely 13.5 grams, and its distinctive size make it both substantial in hand and instantly recognizable. These qualities, combined with its historical context, contribute to its allure in the eyes of numismatists and casual collectors alike. Collectors seeking to add the 1983 50p to their collection will be intrigued by its rarity and the nuances of its condition. While a pristine example naturally commands higher premiums, coins in circulated or dirty conditions have their own unique appeal. They often reflect genuine historical use, lending authenticity that some collectors find irresistible. In today's market, such coins are in steady demand, especially among those building comprehensive collections of 50p coins from the decimal era. Current estimates place the value of a 1983 50p in dirty condition at a few $10,000s of dollars, though prices can fluctuate depending on the severity of wear and the market's appetite. For those who manage to acquire multiple specimens, even these modestly valued coins can represent a clever investment over time. For anyone considering collecting, there are several important tips to keep in mind. Handle coins with care, ideally with gloves, to preserve what remains of the surface details. Avoid aggressive cleaning, as it can reduce value, particularly for collectors who prize originality and historical integrity. Focus on coins with clear, identifiable features, even if they show signs of circulation, as these are often the most sought after for educational or display purposes. As with any collectible, knowledge is your most powerful tool. Understanding the history, design variations, and market trends allows you to make informed choices and build a collection that is both enjoyable and potentially profitable. In conclusion, the 1983 UK 50 pence coin, even in dirty condition, is far more than a mere piece of metal. It is a window into British history, a piece of art in miniature, and a collectible that commands attention from enthusiasts worldwide. Its heptagonal shape, historical context, and enduring popularity make it a coin that continues to captivate, reminding us that true numismatic value is not solely about perfection, but about the stories and legacy carried with each piece. For collectors, investors, and history lovers alike, the 1983 50p is an essential addition to any collection, offering both charm and significance, even decades after it first entered circulation. At number 3, 1969 UK 50 pence coin, even in a dilapidated and battle-worn condition, you're holding far more than a piece of old currency. You're holding the very first chapter of the decimal 50p story. This coin stands at the very beginning of a monumental transition in British monetary history, and even though age, wear, and harsh circulation may have left the coin scratched, discolored, or heavily degraded, collectors across the world still view the 1969 issue as a symbolic landmark. It represents the opening act of a new era, and that early decimal appeal alone keeps interest thriving. So today, we take a closer look at what makes this coin fascinating, why its battered state doesn't erase its desirability, and what kind of value it can command in today's international collector markets. The background of this piece takes us straight back to the late 1960s, a time when the United Kingdom was preparing for one of the biggest transformations in its currency system. Decimalisation was approaching, and with it came a completely new style of coinage. The 50 pence piece, introduced in 1969, replaced the old 10-shilling note and instantly stood out with its distinctive equilateral curve heptagon shape, a design choice that made it practical for machines and strikingly modern for the time. Being part of the very first decimal coins, the 1969 issue is historically significant even when found in extremely poor condition. Its release marked a shift from centuries of traditional coinage to a streamlined modern system, and that shift alone places the coin in an important category within numismatic history. On the obverse of the 1969 coin, you will find Arnold Machin's portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, a youthful and elegant representation that many collectors regard as one of the most graceful royal portraits ever used on British currency. Time may have been unkind to your coin, softening details or corroding surfaces, but the dignified outline of the Queen often remains visible despite heavy wear. The reverse features Christopher Ironside's iconic seated Britannia, carrying her shield and trident, a timeless symbol of British strength and unity. Even if the details have faded through decades of circulation, the presence of Britannia gives the coin a cultural flavour that modern designs can't quite replicate. Each scratch or stain on a dilapidated coin is a reminder of how far it has travelled and the lives it has passed through before reaching your hands. What makes this coin especially interesting to collectors is just how deeply embedded it is in British cultural and historical memory. The late 1960s were a time of immense change, from social movements to technological evolution, and coins like the 1969 50p reflect that transformation in their very metal. For many British families, this was the first 50 pence they ever used, the first decimal coin they recognised, and the first sign that the old ways were giving way to something new. The early decimal issues have a nostalgic value that strengthens with each passing year, and collectors who focus on transitional eras regard the 1969 coin as a cornerstone piece in their sets. Even when heavily damaged, it carries a spirit of national heritage and numismatic identity. Weighing 13.5 grams due to its original larger, heavy style, the 1969 coin feels markedly different from today's lighter 50 pence pieces. This weight and thickness, now obsolete since the smaller 1997 redesign, give it an old-fashioned solidity that collectors enjoy. The coin was struck in cupronickel, a durable alloy, but decades of use, environmental exposure, and handling can still leave significant marks. A dilapidated example may show pitting, oxidation, rim erosion, or extensive surface loss, but even so, the core metal usually remains intact enough for identification and grading. While pristine pieces are obviously more valuable, low-grade examples still hold their place among collectors simply because they are part of the very first run. Despite being minted in high numbers originally, the condition of surviving pieces plays a huge role in present-day demand. Many 1969 coins were used so heavily that very few remain in top-grade condition, and extremely worn or damaged examples have become objects of study for enthusiasts who specialize in circulation history and long-term metal deterioration. That means even a dilapidated coin retains educational and historical interest. The collector demand today is often fueled by nostalgia, early decimal rarity in high grades, and the simple fact that many new collectors want the earliest date available in the series. This keeps the 1969 coin relevant on auction platforms and private sales networks, even when the condition is far from ideal. As for current market value, a heavily dilapidated 1969 UK 50 pence coin generally sits at the lower end of the price scale, but it still manages to attract attention due to its historical status. In today's international market, particularly among American collectors who appreciate early decimal British issues, values usually range from around $5,500 to $600 for very poor grade examples. However, demand can spike depending on presentation, narrative, or market trends, and certain collectors who specialize in as-found or distressed historical coins sometimes pay more for severe where if the piece exhibits an unusual appearance or intriguing history. While it is not a high-value rarity, its symbolic significance ensures that it never falls into complete obscurity. Collectors who hope to make the most of a dilapidated 1969 50p should focus on preservation, context, and story rather than expecting high financial returns. Keeping the coin dry, stable, and free from further corrosion helps maintain its remaining detail. Cleaning should always be avoided. Its worn identity is part of its charm, and artificial shine often lowers collector interest. Researching the coin's background, learning about decimalization and understanding the difference between the original large-size 50 pence and the modern version can make the collecting experience richer and more rewarding. A smart collector also seeks out sold listings rather than asking prices online, ensuring they understand the real market value before buying or selling. In the end, the 1969 UK 50 pence coin, no matter how dilapidated, remains a meaningful piece of British history. It is the first year of issue, the first step into the decimal age, and a nostalgic link to a changing nation. While its monetary value might not be extraordinary, its cultural and historical value is undeniable. It attracts steady collector interest, carries a strong identity, and offers anyone holding it a personal connection to one of the most important transitions in British currency. Owning such a coin is like owning a small metallic witness to half a century of change, and that alone makes it a treasured addition to any numismatic collection. At number 4, the 1982 UK 50 pence coin. While this particular example may show signs of wear, specifically scratches, it still holds an undeniable charm and intrigue for collectors and enthusiasts alike. Scratches do not always diminish the story a coin tells. In fact, they often serve as reminders of the journey it has taken through countless hands over the decades. The 1982 50 pence coin belongs to a pivotal era in British coinage. Introduced in 1969 to replace the 10-shilling note in daily use, the 50p coin quickly became a symbol of modern British currency. By 1982, the coin had already firmly established its presence in everyday life, circulating widely across the UK. This was a time when the country was navigating economic shifts and cultural transformations, and the coins of the era reflect that continuity and stability. While the 1982 edition might not carry the same rarity as some commemorative issues, it remains a sought-after edition for collectors due to its historic value, classic design, and the stories embedded in its circulation marks. Examining the coin itself, the obverse features the iconic profile of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. Her elegant visage has graced British coinage for decades, and the 1982 50p is no exception. Even in scratched condition, the Queen's likeness retains a dignified presence that collectors find appealing. Turning to the reverse, the coin bears the celebrated Britannia design by Christopher Ironside, showcasing the female warrior figure holding a trident and shield. This emblematic depiction of strength and resilience captures the imagination, representing Britain's maritime heritage and national pride. Despite scratches or surface imperfections, the artistry and symbolism remain intact, making the coin a tangible connection to the cultural and historical identity of the UK. Weighing in at 13.5 grams and crafted from cupronickel, the 50p coin has a distinctive heptagonal shape that distinguishes it immediately from other coins in circulation. Its unique design was revolutionary at the time of introduction and remains instantly recognizable to this day. The size, weight, and tactile feel of the coin contribute to its collectible appeal, offering more than just visual interest. Key facts about the 1982 edition include its standard mintage numbers, meaning it was produced in significant quantities, yet its enduring demand among collectors ensures it never loses relevance. Even scratched examples are eagerly sought after because they are accessible points of entry for new enthusiasts while still holding a tangible connection to history. In terms of rarity and condition, it's important to recognize that not every coin needs to be flawless to be valuable. The 1982 50p in scratched condition offers a unique perspective for collectors who appreciate the lived history of currency. While pristine coins command higher premiums, scratched coins tell their own stories and are often more affordable for those beginning their collections or seeking a tangible piece of history that feels authentic. The current market value of a scratched 1982 50p coin can range depending on demand, but collectors generally find them valued between $10,000 and $20,000, sometimes slightly higher if the coin retains certain aesthetic qualities despite its scratches. What is particularly exciting is the potential for appreciation over time, as even everyday coins from the early 1980s are beginning to gain attention in the numismatic community. For collectors, there are a few valuable tips to consider. First, handle all coins with care and store them in a protective environment to prevent further wear. Scratched coins can be preserved and displayed beautifully in albums, cases, or frames that highlight their history without attempting to erase the evidence of circulation. Additionally, researching mintage numbers and historical context adds depth to any collection, enhancing not only the monetary value but also the narrative significance of each coin. Even scratched examples, when properly presented, can become the focal point of a collection, sparking conversations and admiration among fellow enthusiasts. In conclusion, the 1982 UK 50 pence coin with scratches is far from ordinary. It is a piece of living history, a bridge to the early 1980s, and a testament to British design and cultural heritage. Its Queen Elizabeth II obverse and Britannia reverse encapsulate a moment in time, while its imperfections tell the story of decades spent in circulation. For collectors, this coin represents an accessible yet fascinating entry into the world of British numismatics, offering both aesthetic appeal and historical resonance. Whether you are a seasoned collector or just beginning to explore the realm of coins, the 1982 50p in scratch condition is a charming and meaningful addition to any collection, carrying both a story and the potential for enduring value in the marketplace. At last, the 1980 United Kingdom 50 pence coin is one that continues to capture the attention of many coin enthusiasts, especially those fascinated by the everyday pieces of change that slowly evolve into highly regarded collectibles. In today's video, we dive deep into the journey, history, and rising collector interest surrounding the 1980 circulating condition 50p piece, exploring why even a modest-looking coin from your change can generate curiosity and increasing market value in the modern numismatic world. This particular coin carries far more significance than many people assume, and for collectors who understand its background and characteristics, the 1980 issue remains a fascinating treasure worth closer examination. To understand this coin properly, it is essential to step back into the early years of decimalization. The 50 pence piece was first introduced in 1969 as part of the United Kingdom's transition to a new decimal currency system. Its distinctive heptagonal shape, technically known as an equilateral curve heptagon, made it instantly recognizable and symbolic of the era. By 1980, decimal coinage had been well established, but each year's issue still carried its own production volumes, design consistency, and circulating life, making every date a miniature time capsule in Britain's monetary history. The 1980 release continued the long tradition of practical British coinage that balanced durability with national symbolism, quietly circulating through shops, pocket change, and daily use across the country. When examining the head and tail of the 1980 50 pence coin, one finds the classical design details that defined an entire generation of British currency. On the obverse, the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II by Arnold Machin remains one of the most familiar portrayals of the monarch, used throughout the 1970s and 1980s. Her profile is elegant and understated, with a crown that reflects both dignity and the long-standing continuity of the monarchy. On the reverse side is the beloved depiction of Britannia, seated with shield and trident, accompanied by a lion at her side. This imagery, crafted by Christopher Ironside, carried immense national value, representing strength, guardianship, and Britain's maritime identity. For many collectors, this combination of the Machin portrait and Ironside's Britannia is considered one of the most iconic visual pairings in modern British coinage. Beyond design, the cultural and historical value of the 1980 50p stems from its presence in the everyday life of the British public during a transformative economic period. The late 1970s and early 1980s were times of political, social, and economic change in the UK, and coinage like this one provides a tangible piece of that past. It served as a daily companion to workers, shoppers, schoolchildren, and commuters, quietly passing through millions of hands and transactions. Collectors today cherish coins like this not only for their numismatic qualities but also for the way they anchor memories and represent the simpler, analog era before digital banking and contactless payments took over. For those analyzing the physical characteristics of this piece, the 1980 50 pence coin follows the standard specifications of the pre-1997 large-size 50p design. It weighs approximately 13.5 grams and is made from cupronickel, giving it durability and a distinctive metallic appearance. Its diameter of 30 millimeters and seven-sided shape set it apart from most other world coins, making it instantly recognizable both visually and by touch. These details, although once ordinary, now contribute to its growing nostalgic appeal, particularly since the Royal Mint reduced the size of the 50 pence coin in 1997, rendering all earlier versions somewhat special and increasingly desirable. A few key facts make the 1980 issue particularly interesting. While it was produced in sufficient quantities for everyday circulation, it was not minted in excessive numbers compared with some neighboring years. As the decades passed, many examples were withdrawn, lost, damaged, or discarded as legal tender rounds changed and older coins were gradually removed from circulation. Today, finding a genuine 1980 coin in a circulating condition is still possible, but high-quality, well-preserved examples are noticeably rarer. With collectors now placing greater emphasis on specific dates and historical contexts, even circulating condition pieces from this year have started to draw more attention and demand. In terms of rarity and condition, a 1980 50 pence coin that has undergone years of active circulation will naturally show signs of wear, surface marks, and dulling, yet this does not eliminate its collectability. In fact, the charm of circulating condition coins lies in the story they tell, the journey they have endured, the countless everyday exchanges in which they participated, and the history embedded into their worn surfaces. While pristine, uncirculated examples fetch the highest premiums, circulating examples continue to sell because they appeal to entry-level collectors, history enthusiasts, and those completing date-run sets of pre-1997 50p coins. As the supply of naturally aged specimens diminishes year by year, increasing demand continues to push their perceived value upward. When it comes to the modern market, the current value of a 1980 circulating condition 50 pence coin usually ranges from around $1,000 to $3,000, depending on the wear, eye appeal, and the interest of the buyer. However, coins with slightly better detail, sharper strike, or fewer blemishes can reach higher prices, especially if included in curated collections or sold to enthusiastic collectors abroad. What makes this coin particularly attractive is its affordability combined with rising attention in the numismatics community. It is a coin where demand consistently outweighs expectations, and its value trajectory remains gently upward as nostalgia and collectability continue to merge. Collectors seeking this coin or hoping to improve the worth of their own piece should take several practical steps. Keeping the coin stored safely, preferably in a coin flip or protective case, helps prevent further wear. Gentle handling is essential, as even small scratches can reduce desirability among buyers. Researching market trends, watching online auctions, and engaging with coin communities can also provide insights into timing and opportunities. Above all, collectors should remember that the story behind the coin often enhances its charm, making it a rewarding addition to any collection regardless of its grade. In closing, the 1980 50 pence coin stands as a reminder of Britain's evolving monetary history and the enduring appeal of traditional coinage designs. Though modest in value today, its cultural symbolism, historical context, and increasing collector demand grant it a place of honor among pre-1997 UK 50p issues. Whether kept as a nostalgic keepsake or added to a serious collection, the 1980 circulating condition 50p coin remains a piece worth appreciating, celebrating, and preserving for the generations that follow.